and it looks like a foreign country.
The Young Eagles program means a lot to me. It gives youngsters an opportunity that they might not otherwise have. Typically, youngsters that come from an underprivileged background don't get a chance to go to airports, much less get a chance to touch and feel an airplane. Far be it the possibility for them to be able to get an actual ride on an airplane.
And give them a chance to see what it's like flying, see if it's something they'd like to do, and it also lets them know that it can be done if you want to do it.
All young children, black children, Negro children would have seen is what goes on in their neighborhoods. But we have to let our children know that there are other avenues out here so they don't go through a period of, how I say it, a self-imposed segregation. I don't see it, I don't think about it, and I'm not going to be bothered with it. I don't see any people like me involved in this.
I've flown hundreds of youngsters. Ask all the youngsters how you enjoyed your flight and get their feedback. And oftentimes I never see those youngsters again for the rest of our lives. I was invited to join the current president of our chapter, Mr. Bev Dungill, at an open house for Landrum and Brown. When we got there, Landrum and Brown had two young engineers that were greeting people. And the young lady that came up to me, I spoke to her. I said, well, I'm Ken Rapier. I'm with the Tuskegee Airmen. And she says, oh, I know who you are. I says, oh, really? And she says, yeah, you're Ken Rapier. You gave me my Young Eagles flight when I was 15, 16 years old, and that changed my life. And I said, well, how did that change your life?
That day just opened my eyes to a world that was available to me, and it seemed like it was something that was attainable. One Saturday morning, my mom made me get up and go to some type of event. And so she told us that we were going to go take free airplane rides. We got down there, and the first thing that I saw was all of these African-American kids, and not only that, African-American men with their own aircraft. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is not for real. I was 16 years old at the time. When we got up, my pilot was Ken Rapier, and he said, do you want to take control of the airplane? And I was like, absolutely. He gave me the controls, and we turned around and was looking at the entire city of Chicago skyline, and I said, I can do this for the rest of my life.
The Young Eagles program, obviously introductory flights are kind of designed to give a youngster their initial experience in aviation. And one of the things that we say about our Young Eagles program is it not only allows youngsters to expand their horizons and broaden their horizons, but it allows them to raise their horizons.
I think that the Young Eagles program is so important is because it grabs them, at a place where they're so curious, where they're so impressionable.
And perhaps we can make that crack in their mind to say, wow, let the idea about aviation come in.
But what I did find in college was that a great majority of, and I say majority loosely because when I say the majority of minority students in aviation, you have to realize it was maybe 10 of us. And out of those 10, I would say 8 of them had interaction with the Tuskegee Airmen Young Eagles program.
Yeah, it's always nice having the parents come with them and say, oh, I love your story about how you ended up being the Young Eagles before and now you're working in aviation. I worked with one of the other volunteers. We just talked to the kids about airplanes, how an airplane flies, what people do in the airline industry, whether you be a pilot or aircraft mechanic.
So our hope is attempt to preserve the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen by teaching youngsters about the Tuskegee Airmen using our airplanes that are painted to replicate the Tuskegee Airmen's airplanes from World War II that tell the Tuskegee Airmen story. Because before there was a civil rights movement, the Tuskegee Airmen were the civil rights movement. All of the pilots are volunteers, and they own their airplanes. And some pilots don't own their airplanes, they rent airplanes. They pay for their own airplane rental. The pilots that own their airplanes donate the use of their airplanes for the Young Eagles flights. They bring their airplanes here. They pay for their own fuel. It's a 100% volunteer effort. No one gets paid. We decided that we wanted to pay tribute to the Tuskegee Airmen. And one of the best ways to pay tribute to anyone is by imitation. So we painted my airplane, and then Victor Croswell bought a Piper Cherokee just like mine and decided that he wanted to pay the same tribute to the Tuskegee Airmen. So we now have 2 Cherokees that are painted to replicate the Tuskegee Airmen's paint job from World War II. There are some subtle differences. They all had a red nose bowl. The 99th Squadron had a blue and white diamond checkerboard. We chose the 99th Squadron because they were the first squadron that was activated. So the airplane does tell a story. And when Victor had his airplane painted, and the 301st Squadron had a red identification band behind their red nose bowl.
Second Saturday mornings are changing lives for minority youth and youth all across this country. They take the kids out one by one, and what I love about it is so intimate, you know. So when they're taking you up, it's you and the pilot and maybe 1 or 2 more kids. I love to see the kids. I love to see the kids going up. But I love most to see them come down. You can't explain it. You know that you're watching something that they'll remember for the rest of their life. I have not seen one kid like just get off the plane and walk away.
And he feels how the wind is and how the controls are, and how the landing is. It will stay with him forever.
The experience that I have when I'm trying to convey aviation experience to the youngsters, it's really very rewarding because they're being exposed to something that they weren't exposed to before. Teaching them about the Tuskegee Airmen is teaching them about their own history. The Tuskegee Airmen is not just African American history. The Tuskegee Airmen is United States history. They're the history of America. And we have living legends that come to our Young Eagles rally every month on the second Saturday of every month at the Gary Airport.
The originals working with the Young Eagles to show that what's it like. I see it as a sincere effort to help continue with their legacy.
There are so many other distractions in the modern world that someone has to make a special effort to make sure that that legend is not lost.
People like to have this perception that African Americans came from slavery to the civil rights movement. There was nothing in between. We have a whole lot to learn.
But I think to talk about the Tuskegee Airmen and put them at the forefront and to give them the acclaim that they deserve, the glory of the story is the adversity. They overcame every obstacle that was set before them. They are living examples of what we can do.
The Lonely Eagles are those original Tuskegee Airmen who have passed on.
These are men that paved the way for us in aviation. If it had not been for them, we would not be part of aviation today. And to see them transitioning on to the big cockpit in the sky, it leaves a void in our hearts all the time when we have to see some of the original Tuskegee Airmen leaving us.
But it gives me even more, a greater sense of urgency to get out there and tell their story.
What was accomplished by all of those men set the stage for the single most significant change in American society in the 20th century. And that's why the legacy of the 99th and the Tuskegee Airmen is important to keep it alive, because of what was accomplished.
Why we want to reach out to kids? Because that's the future. Man himself is impermanent. The only thing that can live is the spirit.